Resin. Initially popping up into Minecraft in April of 2024. Wait a second, wrong one. Resin, initially added to Minecraft in Snapshot 24 W44A. From how to find it the first time, to how to farm it, to some secret uses. Welcome back to the Everything series, everyone. It's me, Waddles, and today, get ready for a deep dive. This right here is everything you need to know about Resin. Inside of your brand new, fresh Minecraft world, day one vibes, if you're looking to get your hands on resin, well, first things first, if you didn't spawn by one, you're going to need to set out into your world and find a pale garden biome. This could be a little tricky. Now, alongside today's resin guide, keep your eyes out for an in-depth pale garden biome guide from yours truly sometime soon. But long story short, for today, all we need to know is that the pale garden biome is a biome variant of the dark oak forest biome. So, using that knowledge, in order to find the pale garden biome, it wouldn't be a bad idea to set out into your world and start by looking for a dark oak forest biome. The dark oak forest biome is a humid biome that likes to generate near birch forests and sometimes jungles as well. The dark oak forest biome is a biome that you'll be able to find generating almost anywhere across your world. Once you find one, hopefully your luck stays strong and a pale garden generated nearby as well. But hold up, flashback rewind, Resin. It was a surprise addition to Minecraft in Snapshot 24 W44A. This thing literally hit us out of the blue and is such a beautiful addition to Minecraft's winter drop update. Channel members, I've got a world download for you. If you'd like to get up close and personal with the Resin tutorial world from this video, tap that join button for a little bit more info. If you're already at Legend tier, check the community tab. Now, unfortunately, finding the pale garden biome is only half the battle when it comes to resin, because as of right now, at least, the resin will not generate anywhere naturally inside of your world. Not only are you going to need to find the biome in which resin will sort of start to be birthed into your beautiful Minecraft world, but inside of this biome, you're going to need to run around probably at nighttime until you can find yourself a creaking heart block. Now, to be honest, I recommend doing all of this at nighttime because there's going to be a lot of pale oak trees inside of this biome. And unfortunately, to find the block that we need, we can't really just start chopping. You'd have to get really lucky. You see, a small percentage of pale garden trees that naturally generate can generate with a block called a creaking heart block. Run around in this biome at nighttime until you find yourself one of these creaking mobs. Hit the creaking, and you'll see orange particles pop out of this thing, trailing over towards a tree that probably shouldn't be too far away. Now, after that, you're going to need to do a couple of things. Keep your eyes on the creaking, but also move over towards the tree in which the particles are drifting towards. You see, that's because that tree is going to be a tree with a creaking heart block inside of it. So there's a really interesting mechanic at play here where essentially every single time I hit the creaking, particles form, but also on the tree where the creaking heart is, resin you see, every single time you hit the creaking on a 5-second cooldown within a 2-block taxi cab distance from the creaking heart, 2 to 3 clumps of resin will form. And that's it. If your goal is to just get your hands on the resin, all you need to do is break the stuff. It instantaneously breaks on the tree. You can break it with your hand and take it back home. Just like that, you've got yourself the resin clump item. Now, another way to get your hands on resin, maybe not the smartest way to get your hands on the stuff, but another way nonetheless has to do with the creaking heart block. If I mine this thing with an axe, and it will mine a little slower than a log, but when I mine it with an axe, well, when I break it without factoring in any enchantments, 1 to 3 clumps of resin will drop. Okay, I lied. Technically, there's another way to get your hands on resin without the pale garden. First things first, inside of your world, find yourself a woodland mansion. For our woodland mansion episode of the Everything series, tap the like button. Inside of the woodland mansion, rarely, from time to time, like if you're super lucky here, you're actually able to find a little bit of resin clumps inside of the chests. But seriously, keep in mind that maybe this isn't the most efficient way to get your hands on resin, like bro, just go find the pale garden biome. You'd be way better off. Next up, the mechanic. So this resin mechanic, this is unlike anything this game has ever had. For starters here, it would be great to know that the creaking heart block, well, you can actually move this thing and bring it back home. The only catch here, you're going to need to get your hands on a silk touch axe. Now, the creaking heart right here, this block, it's sort of the source of everything. If I place a creaking heart down inside of my world, nothing is going to happen. However, if I sandwich a creaking heart block in between 2 pale oak logs, then it will light up. And once it's nighttime, and only at nighttime, a creaking will spawn. Then same thing, if I hit this creaking like we were talking about before, these particle effects, they're going to link between the creaking and its source, creaking heart block. As soon as you break the source creaking heart block, the creaking that's linked to it, no matter how far away it wanders, well, it'll go away. We don't want to do that. Instead here, what we're going to want to do is keep this creaking alive and hit it. Every single time we hit the creaking, the particles pop up, and at the same time, in a 2-block taxi cab distance, 2 to 3 different clumps will attempt to be formed. But there's a catch here, because let's say we had blocks that weren't the pale oak blocks, more specifically, pale oak log, stripped pale oak log, pale oak wood, or stripped pale oak wood. Well, if I didn't have those blocks around here, no resin clumps will be able to form. If you want to form resin clumps, you're going to need to have some sort of setup, kind of looking something like this right here. You're going to need a wall or at least like open pale oak blocks nearby. Another interesting thing that you can notice here is resin is never forming on the creaking heart block itself. And blocking off the creaking heart block, it's not going to stop resin from forming. And curiously, water source blocks, they don't stop resin growth, but flowing water does. So eventually, after a little bit of time, 2-block taxi cab distance from the creaking heart block, the technical words, they mean that this is the growth pattern from a single creaking heart block when it comes to resin. So, with the mechanic laid out here, let's talk about farming resin. First things first, let's say you're pulling this off over at your base. It's pretty simple. Set up a wall of pale oak logs, hit the creaking, watch the wall while watching the creaking at the same time. Every single time you take your eyes off of it, it will run and try and hit you. But while watching the wall and the creaking at the same time, resin will form. Run up to the wall every once in a while, smack the resin a little bit, and essentially repeat the process. That's all there is to it. Farming resin is actually insanely easy. If you want to make your farm maybe a little bit more safe, don't worry about double siding it, because again, keep in mind, every single time that line of sight is broken with the creaking, it will move towards you. One way to optimize this farm and make it a whole lot easier is stand near your wall and try and get the creaking as close as you can to like where you're going to be hitting the wall and farming the resin. If I have the creaking right here within view the entire time, well then the guy's not really going to be able to like run anywhere or anything like that. Now let's try and level this up for a second, why don't we? Here I have a beautiful axe with a beautiful name, Fortune 3. If I mine a clump of resin with Fortune 3, unfortunately, Fortune 3, it doesn't actually work like that. A little bit of a bummer, but it does come into play kind of in a way. Instead, if I had a Fortune 3 axe and I mined the creaking heart block, well, instead of getting 1 to 3 clumps of resin, I could get anywhere from 1 to 6 clumps of resin from a single creaking heart block. Okay, listen, logistically, like literally just hit this thing 3 times, take 15 seconds, and you could easily get more. But I mean, I guess if you have a stack of these blocks and a Fortune 3 axe, that's a method. So far, the resin farm, I mean, it's not too bad. What if I told you there's a better way? So over here, I've got my dear dog, Bonzo. He's been waiting for this moment. It's a piece of steak for you. Get up, boy. Now, if this creaking hits me even one time, well, then my sweet, amazing dog is going to go into defend mode and continuously attack the creaking. And even better, the dog doesn't really know about the resin cooldown. Instead, it just knows that it wants to defend me for its entire life, its sole purpose. So all I need to do is let the creaking hit me one time. The dog will continuously attack the creaking, and more resin will keep being formed every 5 seconds on your wall that you built. To speed it up even more, maybe make it a little bit better and a little bit safer, well, consider making your farm maybe a single-sided farm. To pull this off is pretty simple. Cover up the backside of your blocks, either block them off with a solid block or put something else on them. After that, your dog-powered resin farm kicks off, and beautifully on the back, because it's fully covered up, no resin will ever form. As long as there aren't things like, say, other mob skeletons nearby to distract your dog, that's all there is to it. Factoring into ease of building and ease of use, this farm right here is not only one of the easiest resin farms, but potentially one of the best ones in the entire game too. One nighttime later, after farming resin all night long, you're bound to have yourself quite a bit of resin stocked up. What do you do with this resin? Well, your first option is inside of the crafting table. With the 9 pieces of resin total, you can go ahead and condense these things down into one single block of resin. But that's not all. You're not the biggest fan of this block? No big deal. Go ahead and slide into a furnace and throw the resin clump into it. Give it a little bit of time, and this block, item, thing, clump will slowly smelt up into a new brick called the resin brick. And oh my god, these item sprites, like not only the resin clump one, but that resin brick, it's glowing, it's beautiful, it's strong. I love it. But like I'm Billy Mays or something, but wait, there's more. There's one more thing that you can do with this resin clump. I mean, remember how it formed into the world on something? Well, yeah, you could pick this thing up in full survival Minecraft. You could place this thing on the ground for, I mean, really whatever you want to do. Maybe you're trying to create some kind of interesting looking horse on the ground like the ancients would make. Maybe say you're trying to make an interesting looking path. Hey, what about, say, maybe building yourself the orange tree of your dreams inside of your world? Yeah. You're going for custom ore. Maybe your vibe is cool decor. Or you're just trying to make one of the most horrendous looking busy things in the entire game. Well, resin clumps, don't sleep on them. They're a great item. Another interesting little thing about the resin clump is the fact that this thing is waterloggable. Yes, as you might have picked up when we were talking about water and resin farming, you could definitely put this thing in water. However, if you put it in flowing water, it will actually block the water. So it kind of does it all. You could also put more than one piece of resin inside of a single block. So we have one on like that face, then another one on that face, and another one on that face. And you could basically continue this until you have a full, solid block of resin. Unfortunately, despite its glowing appearance, it doesn't actually glow. Now, on the other hand, the resin block, oh my gosh, this block, the texture right there, that is a beautiful texture. It's like bubbly, scaly. Like the first thing that I thought of when I saw this block is imagine making a gigantic dragon in the air and using this as like dragon scales or something. Like I mentioned earlier on, 9 resin turned into a single block of resin. Now this block of resin, listen. It's got some squishy, juicy sounds. It's cool. Even when you walk on it, the sounds are squishy too, but maybe even more interestingly, when you break it, not only is this squishy, but it instantly breaks as well. That leads to a gigantic, great use for this block. Let's say I needed to get my way up on top of the tree. Maybe I wanted to make this into my orange tree or something. Well, I could use resin to tower up, jump back over to the resin, and instantly break the resin. It's like scaffolding, except at the same time, it's like a fully solid block. Maybe you're not the biggest fan of scaffolding and the up-down kind of confusing mechanics. Well, no big deal. You could just use this stuff as your scaffolding and instantly break it whenever you're done with it. That's wonderful. In my opinion, it's also pretty great that this block is a fully normal block as well. Like a piston, it can push it. A sticky piston, well, it can definitely pull it. And again, like that cool texture and the tone of it, I mean, this is going to be a great block for any kind of creative build that you're trying to set up inside of your world. But anyways, a little bit of time later, this stuff has been smelting up the whole time. I've got some bricks over here inside of the crafting table. This time with 4 bricks total, I can go ahead and make myself a block of resin bricks. When I place this thing down, if I try and break it instantly, well, this one, it's a lot more solid. It's not going to work. Custom sound, though. Oh, yeah, that's very bricky. That's a nice walking sound, too. Honestly, like, with these modern updates and a lot of the sounds inside of them, just a big shout out to the devs because they're cooking. In survival Minecraft, if you place a brick down and you want to pick it back up, well, do not break it with your hand, you'll get nothing. Instead, you need to mine this with a pickaxe, just like how you do with any other brick in the game. Now, inside of the crafting table, of course, you could go ahead and place the bricks in whatever pattern to go ahead and make your different variants, but maybe a little bit more cost efficient, at least when it comes to the staircases, the stone cutter all the way. Inside of the stone cutter, we'll be able to find all of the different resin brick variants that we currently have in the game right now. These resin brick variants, I mean, you've got a full set here. They're beautiful. It's orange, so you have that one, then you got the staircase, the slab, and the wall version, and then the chiseled resin brick. Oh my god, look at that thing. The resin mother herself, she's so beautiful here. The creaking, they went ahead and put this thing on every single side of the chiseled resin brick block, and it is so good looking. When it comes to a proper use for the resin brick block, I mean, it's all on you. It's up to you. All the way, this block is all about building. Interestingly, this resin brick block will line up with these other smaller brick blocks that are in the game. Like this red one specifically, you might be able to make some kind of cool fire evil castle or something, or even the classic brick, maybe something cool. Kind of a neat one that people were pointing out almost right away, the resin brick, it's also like so similar to the classic Mario brick too. Hey, but let's actually rewind things for one quick second and take it back to the brick item, because with these things, there's actually another use too. So initially, when this thing was added to the snapshot, if you wanted to use resin as an armor trimming material, you would have used the resin clump. Nowadays, inside of the update, you want to trim something with resin? Well, yeah, you can trim something with resin. Instead, though, you're going to use the resin brick. This stuff, when trimming with resin, is so beautiful. It's like almost glowy looking or whatever. Specifically, one of my favorite combinations here is the flow trim on top of a netherite. Because of this true orange tone that you get here, I mean, like the design, it really pops and stands out. The flow trim is such a beautiful one. I mean, look at how good, beautiful, and like curvy, dare I say I look. Wow. Using the resin brick as the trim material and the silence armor trim as the trim itself, I went ahead and put this on every single different armor tier that you can in the entire game. With silence, because it's such a massive trim, you can really get a good sense of how orange this stuff really is, and Just wow, like this stuff is so stunning looking. Forget copper orange armor trim, it's in the garbage. And actually, as a matter of fact, if you're looking for that clean side by side, the old orange armor trim versus the new armor trim that's orange, I mean, it's not even a competition. They didn't change copper one bit. Instead, it's just the resin is such a vibrant orange color. This stuff is so amazing. And so, when it comes to Resin, the brand new version of it right now, that's just about it. But, oh, wait, what? There's more? Flashback and a little bit of a rewind at the same time to the potato snapshot earlier this year. Resin was actually added to the game. Now, this resin, it formed in this thing called the toxic resin ore, but interestingly, listen. I mean, it was pretty squishy sounding from the start, and then you have this different item called toxic resin. Now, I mean, this version of resin, I mean, it is completely different to what we obviously ended up getting, but I do think it's at least, like, a little bit interesting that they would add something called resin to the game only, like, a matter of 6 months or so before they would actually add the real deal and real thing. God, that drives me crazy and gets me wondering about what else here could have been real. Resin, everything you need to know for the new update. You're looking to become the most enlightened lad when it comes to Minecraft? Well, check out the Everything series playlist that's on the end card. I've got a ton of different ultimate guides that are all valid inside of this update. What guide would you like to see next? You let me know down below. Tab, like, subscribe, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Thank you very much.